Welcome to the skating session, season two. My name is Tony Wheeler.
And I'm Thomas Vu.
We are starting off season two because, in tradition with the ISU, the new season begins on July 1st. So, why not begin this as episode one of season two of the show? We have a lot to talk about. I think our last video was about a month ago, maybe even a little more. Lots
Mhm.
of news over the summer, lots of program announcements, some changes within the ISU. Where do we start?
Oh, there's a lot. I think the first thing we have is just kind of the thing that's been mocked the most in a way I've seen
Yeah.
online, but the ISU has a new logo and branding because that's why people aren't watching.
Yeah, I mean I have to say I like the logo. I think it's long overdue. We know I think it was the end of last year, maybe earlier at the beginning of this year, they changed the website for the worse. I mean, it's
Yeah.
almost impossible. I know at one point I went to find the rules, and the rules were not even anywhere to be found on the website. You had to go to the Internet Archive website to maneuver backwards to find where they were on the old website. They fixed that since then, but
hmm
some of the displays for results and navigating around the site is just almost impossible. Anyways, so I guess stage two of this whole process of updating to be in the 2020s is to give us this new logo.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it actually. I think it looks cool.
It is very modern, right? But my honestly my first reaction because I'm in this like space and like education and in my own job is like, oh, the ISU started paying for a Canva subscription because
Yeah.
everything in here just feels super like stock from Canva, from like the
hmm
color gradients to like the slash going through the logo to how flat everything looks, way more modern in that way. Which you're right, if I'm not being snarky, it's good. I do think it's an improvement. I guess for me, there was still that whole like this rebranding is so important mentality. Instead of just letting it be, they tried to make it something bigger, in my
hmm
opinion, than it is, and that felt very old school, old
Yeah.
ISU. So yeah, I think that's
I
where
find
why I'm
it
being
I
snarky.
well, one of the things about the website that I pointed out when it first came out is the to get to all of the skating stuff. I don't know if it's speed skating and short track as well. But anyways, the website address is isu-skating.com or .org or whatever it is. You're saying International Skating
Oh,
Union skating. To me, it's so redundant. I don't understand. Like
yeah.
I don't understand that part of it. I know they have to have like unique identifiers for the URL, but it just seems like that's weird. Um,
Because everything's still housed under ISU.org, though. They
I
probably just paid for
believe,
that extra
yeah.
domain, and maybe they're transferring,
I think
but
because
it
now
doesn't
they
matter.
have like two different websites. There's one that's like for the fans and the other one's for media
Oh, like the
or something.
Federation
When
and
you first
more
click
official
on it,
things.
it's yeah, I don't know. I mean, so many other sports have really cool websites. Like I think tennis has really cool profiles.
They do.
Adam Rippon ripped into this for an entire podcast one time. He went through every single picture on the new website. These are like the pictures for the athletes. They're pictures that they take basically when they're rolling in to like get their credentials after getting off a plane. Half of them look like they're asleep. Half of them are just not good pictures. Like they could do so much more. They need a team that's like dedicated to really removing the background on some of the ISU official photos they have of the skaters and then post them as their actual profile pages. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. That was months ago that they did this. The
Yep.
logo is cool. It's not going to fix any of the other issues that the ISU has, such as maybe making the programs a little bit more interesting by changing the rules or getting rid of
hmm
some of the elements that are just throwaway elements that are nonsense and really don't have any criteria. That's not going to happen, though. We already know it's just going further in the opposite direction to give them more freedom to give away these GOEs. Um, Speaking of which, there was also this extraordinary Congress, the first ever one that they had, and they live casted it to YouTube, and I watched the tail end of it. And what I saw basically was they had a vote to decide whether it needed to be a secret vote or not. And then they voted in favor of moving forward with this whole Vision 2030 or whatever it is. To me, the parts that I saw and the parts that I saw um, summarized just seemed like a bunch of words that we'll see if they go
Word
anywhere.
salad, right?
Yeah,
I guess
yeah,
they used that today.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's like,
if they actually enact some of this idea of modernizing the sport, doing more fan engagement, which I think we saw a little bit at, last Worlds, which again, I was a fan of like most of it, so I'm glad they're moving in that direction. Hopefully, though, there's a lot of that follow through because I feel like what happens a lot, and especially big organizations, there's this big push at the beginning, and then there is just not that follow through and it dies away.
Mhm.
So I'd love to see them keep pushing, and more toward that fan interaction and fan involvement.
Yeah, me too, but I think it's a fine line because I saw comments. We liked a lot of the stuff they did at Worlds. I liked the
Yeah,
modernization of the boards and the screens and the energy in the arena. But you have a lot of older fans that don't like the loud noise and they treat a skating competition like it's going to the opera. Like they seriously
I
expect it to be
know.
very prim and proper and elegant and skating is it's not the 70s. It's not the 70s anymore. The 80s
Right.
got a little bit weird as far as in the world, the 80s were a big step forward, and we have to get past that mentality and we have to figure out what's going to drive newer fans into the sport. And I don't think the sport's hurting that severely at all, but you have to find ways to keep up with what is modern rather than, the ISU taking 30 or 40 years to finally make these changes.
Right. And so like, I'm a tennis fan and I love all the stats. I'm one of those and I love how on the broadcast they show you that. They
Yeah.
give it to you in competitions.
Yeah.
They even give coaches access to that stuff
Yep.
mid-tournament now because you can coach in tennis now and it's
Yeah.
not cheating.
Yeah.
Um, and I even went to my first baseball game. Again, like I'm 38 and I went to my first baseball game last month and it was really cool because even like in the stadium they have all these stats and I had to keep asking the group I was with, what does all this stuff mean? But
Mm.
I loved that. And, I think that's like a more younger fans really gravitate toward the numbers and the analysis. So hopefully the ISU pushes more into that. I know Japanese TV is really big on that. Even things like, using calculus to
Yeah.
calculate like airtime and things like
Yeah.
that, which is really cool.
I think they've had that for almost 10 years. You see
Yeah.
it during NHK Trophy, you see it during Japanese Nationals. Worlds is pretty much every 4 or 5 years in Japan, and they show it even during Worlds. I think it's been at least 10 or 15 years that other people, former athletes, have been developing ways to tell rotation and where the blade is landing and where it's taking off. Imagine it's like tennis, where on the big screen after the performance, for everybody to see in the arena, they have like this official system, kind of like the in or out balls in when you
Yes.
challenge in tennis, but they go through every single jump up on the screen and they show the rotation. I mean,
Hmm.
I think that's where it's headed eventually, but not anytime soon because the ISU is going to take 50 years to get
Yeah,
to
the
that.
tech is going to be expensive too, even if they
Yeah.
can and get it and whatever.
Yeah.
But as a tennis fan, I love that. It's like I still remember getting so upset at really bad line calls. There's that
Hmm.
big example, probably what spurred electronic line calling was how Serena Williams was totally cheated in 2004 at the US Open, just so egregiously. And I remember how upset I got. I don't feel any of that anymore. I just trust the system,
Yeah.
even if it's inaccurate
Hmm.
it doesn't matter because it's consistently inaccurate in a
Right.
certain way.
Right.
So I just kind of,
Yeah,
great,
very
done,
big
accept
point.
it.
Very big point. It's consistently, I watch tennis a lot too, and I think that, they get it right. They usually get it right.
Yeah.
You can see where the tracing is on the court where the ball hits, and typically when they show it in the replay, it's pretty consistent. So again, this is all
I know,
a
I know. We're
dream
we're
and it's
talking
not going
five,
to
10 years
happen.
into the
No,
future. Yeah,
much
I know.
longer. And then, but it really, in order to go through all seven, the maximum seven jumping elements in the short program, there's three. To go through all of them is not going to take that long if you use a system like that. And then, what's the need for a caller, at least on calling these Q calls, or under rotation or downgrade or whatever. But anyways, yeah, that's something I think, the technology, Craig Bunton, who was a Canadian champion, he was top five in the world in pairs. He was developing something quite a while ago, and I don't know what the status of it ever ended up being. I don't know if he still was pursuing it. I think someone else was also trying to come up with some kind of system. It will be there eventually, but for now, we just rely on super lenient or super tough panels, and there's no consistency to it all at all. And
Or even
that
within
is,
competitions,
yeah, yeah.
or the same
Like we were
segment
told,
of a
like we were
competition.
told, they
Right, we're
start to
told.
get a
Yep.
little bit more generous if they feel like they're being too harsh as the night goes on.
Right.
So the skaters that are already ahead are getting a boost because the ones earlier they were too harsh on. So now they suddenly have to start throwing out these higher scores and these lesser rotation
Hmm.
issues. So yeah,
And U.S.
again,
nationals will always stay U.S. nationals and
yeah, every
don't worry
every
about the
nationals
calls.
will stay, but yeah, U.S. nationals they look
Well,
the other way
yeah. Mhm.
completely, completely.
Yes.
But and this is tying into, the new logo, this new vision. But I really think, as I said, I don't think that the fandom is really suffering that much. However, I do think that in order to really continue to engage people, you have to go to the foundations of the actual programs that are being presented. I
Yeah.
don't care about the noise in the arena. I mean, some people might, but if you see that people are generally bored with the programs, I think pretty much across the board, I would say 80 or 90% of people, at least online, that have some kind of opinion, were not that thrilled with the free dances or even the rhythm dances last year.
Yeah.
And it comes down to the structure of what they've got it to. So it doesn't matter about these outside influences. You need to go down to the foundations of the program and figure out why the
And
programs are
I
not working.
and I think about like, again, I use Mr. THVU as like my everyman, right? And he started watching with me because of Papadakis and Cicerone, ice
Mhm.
dance. But
Mhm.
I was probably his least favorite portion of the competition when he went with us, at this last Worlds. The only person he still talks about is Jason Brown. And I still remember him just crying from watching Jason Brown practice,
Mhm.
And so I feel like, what is Jason Brown bringing? And can we start thinking about like how do we incorporate more of that into the sport? Because that's really what it is. It's this performance, it's this art, it's this ability to express and feel. And ice dance has just become really cold as a sport.
Yeah, but the thing about Jason Brown, and it's so we have two different things going on. We have programs where there's really minimal time to sell the program. There's
Yeah,
there's minimal time. Second of all, we have a sport where this is first and foremost a sport, and a lot of people get into the sport without 1 ounce of a sense of presentation or feeling the music or understanding the
right.
music or being able to emote in a realistic way. So you're always going to have, no matter what, you're going to have people that are very heavy on the technical elements and they don't care about the choreography. They'll skate through the
Right.
program, they'll do the big jumps and they'll get good scores just because
And
that's
they'll
how the
get
sport
sevens or
is.
eights.
Yeah,
Right.
that's how the sport is. So I don't- it's never we're never going to suddenly get this influx of artistes. Um, but I
This is
do.
true.
I look at skaters like Jason who time and time again, I don't always love all of his programs. I think this year he had two good programs. But he just from beginning to end is in that character. Same with Kevin Amos. Same with Yuma to an extent. Yuma makes me
Yeah.
like music that I don't. Michael
I
Bublé,
know,
please,
right?
like, so it's the quality of the skating from start to finish. There's several other skaters. It's not just limited to the men, and it's not just limited to just a few. But because the technical elements mean so much, we tend to see that overshadows kind of the program
Yeah.
quality, and we see even Elia, who's trying. I saw amazing things from the exhibition at Worlds, but he went to World Team Trophy, he was out of energy, and there was no program there. He did not even try to listen to the music. So there's this trade-off where I think, again, maybe you need to free up some of the time rather than making this a
I
sprint from
mean, look,
start
for
to
the men, they
finish.
took 40 seconds away, but then
Right.
only reduced
One
took away the
element,
one jumping pass,
which takes five
which
seconds.
realistically, right, exactly.
Yeah.
Even with prep, it's like 10 seconds. So
Yeah. Yeah.
they're losing a lot of that ability to
Yeah.
perform in
Yeah.
men's skating just because of
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I said, I'm gonna keep saying this. The step sequence goes on 45 seconds or more. If you're not a good skater, you're taking even longer to get all this stuff in. You need to get rid of it.
I
You need to
know.
get rid of it. That is the only way around
In
it.
the
You
free dance,
cannot
I
add.
agree. Yeah, get rid of it in the. I was first stop free dance, the free skate. Get rid of
Yeah.
it in the free skate. I
Yeah.
agree.
You've already
Hmm.
seen it in the short program. They're doing the same steps. Figure out a way to balance every other score. Choreographic element, I guess, keep it in there, whatever. It's scored like it is in ice dance. It's just the throwaway element that the top skaters will get plus
But
four,
it's
plus
only
five.
max 2.5 points for GOE,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not
It's not
like
a massive.
nearly as
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really a throwaway element, more or less.
Mhm.
But so I think the if you're going to really see a resurgence in kind of the energy of getting into the sport, you need to make the programs more memorable. There's nothing against big jumpers. Like, people get into the sport to see Ilya do his quad axel. They were all excited. The ISU was promoting Adam doing a backflip that was an illegal element. Like, people want to see these big. I think about in the 90s, I think about the pairs like the Adagio teams like Hartshorn and Swiding, who would do all these really, like the headbanger, and they would do all these big dangerous lifts and stuff. And I know that pair skating is never going to get to that level in the ISU level competition at least, but that brought excitement. And
Mhm.
I have to remember that it's the elements that can bring the excitement just as much as the program itself. But all these other things, the new logo, the new vision, the DJ in the arena, the lights, that's not going to make, at least in my opinion,
Right.
I don't think people are going to say, "Wow, like that just completely changed what I think about the actual skating itself." It's not. So they have to figure out a way after 2026. They have to go back and really figure out a way to structure the programs to give us those moments. I think about in the 90s, it was called the slow section. Everyone had a moment to really kind of start selling the program. We don't get that anymore. We don't. It's all one level. It's usually snoozy music. It's usually none of the elements match the phrasing of the music because they just try to get the elements in, and it is what it is.
Yeah,
So
and I agree with you too. I think a large part of it, just because the program structure has become so, we talked about this, and I won't go on ad nauseum, but has become so rigid only because of the second half bonus is limited to three
mhm.
jumps.
Yep.
I much prefer when there was no limit. You could put all seven in there, be
Yep.
Zagitova, and do that, win the Olympics, because at least that was exciting. She was still able to do that and hit every single beat in the
Yeah.
music in terms of pick,
Yep.
landing, like,
Yep.
and that was really artistic to me and athletic at the same time.
Well,
And
it
we're not
it
seeing anything like that anymore. It's all this
it
really stale 4+3
yep.
programs.
It's 4+3, and one of the criteria for getting higher GOE in these jumping elements is, or any elements, is matching the music. If you're skating to snoozy music that really has no phrasing, then you're matching the
Right.
music no matter what. With Zagitova, and I 100% agree with you, and we've talked about this. To do all seven jumps in that tight space. Yes, the beginning of the program only had like three or four elements, and it seemed like that step sequence went on forever to try to get to the 2 minutes, then to start let the program. I get it, but the thing is,
But it
yes,
was
she
doing
had to
this, the
be
whole build,
and
build,
sh
build,
and
like
she had to be
it,
exactly on timing, or that program would have fallen apart and looked
like at
foolish
Worlds.
by her just jump. Yeah, exactly. She falls behind
Yep.
at Worlds, and you see the mess. And I even said, she has to deliver for this to be effective, and it's not guaranteed that she will. I said this at the Olympics before Worlds even happened. So I would like to see, if it means getting rid of the bonus for the jumps in the second half, then do it. I don't, a well-balanced program, my ass, for lack of a
Because no
better
one's
term,
doing one. I'm
because it's
sorry,
not a
but no one's
well-balanced
doing it.
program. It is a framework that I'm giving you, and this is what you must do. That's what
Right.
it is. It's not,
Especially when skaters are still ending programs with step sequence, choreo sequence, two spins. That's not well
yeah,
balanced, but so
yep,
many are doing it that way, or
yep,
ending in just two spins
yeah,
in general.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
unfair to me.
the excitement of throwing in the jump, like kind of last minute. I know you can't repeat the jumps anymore like you used to. Like,
Yeah.
okay, if a skater fell on a triple axel, they could throw it back in later. I know they can't do that because there's a limit, but just to have one of those, Kaori is actually someone that she usually does her loop like right before the end of
Right.
the program. And I like that, but we don't see
Yep.
that so much anymore. I like seeing kind of that shuffle of not, you know, four jumps to start, a spin, get through the step sequence, then we're in the second half. Let's do all three jumps, and then it's 2:15, and then maybe I'll start to sell the program now. We've talked about this before, and again, I
Yeah.
think I think this is where it needs to go, and I completely agree though. Zagitova, I don't care what anybody says. That was such a well-structured program. It built excitement. It needed to be precisely to the split second on timing. And when we don't really see that because most people use music that just doesn't lend itself to being so precise. And that's it. And they
Right.
don't have to, but I would rather see a program that just built somehow rather than staying on this one level the whole time and knowing the structure is going to be what it is.
Yeah. And again, we talked about forever, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I love how we're only on the first thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the next thing I had on here was US figure skating has changed the national bye rules.
Yeah.
So now for this next season, any athlete who has won any medal at any Olympic Games, but not including the team event, gets a
Mhm.
bye to nationals.
Now, why would they do that?
I don't know. It's almost like a team that won an Olympic medal 2 Olympics ago is returning this year, and they don't want to
Hmm.
do any qualifying competitions because
Yeah, I mean, but that's interesting to me because I think they need to do well. I'm assuming they're going to get out there at least a challenger event. They do have their
yeah,
two Grand Prix events, but even by virtue of having those two Grand Prix events, don't they already have a Biden Nationals anyways? Like,
You
I
know, it's so funny is I wasn't up to date on what the national buy rules were
I think
for
they
last
do. I
season.
think they do.
Yeah, but I think there's just maybe it's though a just in case because what if they get injured, they're not able to
What if they
compete at these
decide? Yeah,
events,
yeah. You
or
know,
they
and
have to
that
withdraw for some reason, or there's visa issues because those always pop up
yeah.
randomly. And so the Shibutani is like, I think again, they cross their T's, dot their I's, and I wouldn't be surprised if this idea came from them or their team too, and asked U.S. figure skating just to make sure that things
Well,
don't fall through the cracks.
if it is a case of them being the ones to kind of pursue this, then I would be worried that maybe mm,
I mean, you never know what happens because it's sport, like they could just have a sprain literally like the
yeah,
weekend
but I'm
before they're
saying
supposed to
like
leave for a Grand Prix and then they can't compete and then they don't get the bye.
if they're already kind of circumventing any of these situations, then I would really question, are they going to be ready in the fall? Because it just seems like, it's very specifically the Shibutani rule. Like there's no way around that.
100%. Although I
So
love the idea of how this opens up the door to so many comebacks that we're not going to see. But theoretically, Michelle Kwan could just be like, I want to come back and compete this year.
yeah.
And they would have to let her into nationals
Yeah, that's true.
because
Yeah.
she meets the criteria now for a
Yeah.
bye.
Brian Boitano can come back. Like
Right. Brian Boitano
any
could come back.
Peggy Fleming
Any
can go
Olympic
back. Yeah.
medalist.
Yeah. I mean
That'd be
it's
hilarious if we just saw someone troll us and do that.
I
Come
mean
up, do like some singles out there.
it is very interesting though, and it does lend itself to the are they really going to be ready?
Right.
And I would say for the Shibutanis, they have to be ready. I don't care if they're
Yeah.
worried about facing off
No, I
against
agree.
these big teams in the fall. They have to. They cannot show up to nationals and then think they're going to get anywhere as far as, not even having competed. Well, you know what? They won't be able to compete at the Olympics anyways because they won't have minimums. There's no way around that. There is no way around that.
That's true, the minimums. But
So,
okay,
yeah.
so we'll have to like double check what the qualifying rules were for last year. But I'm pretty sure it had to be like if this is their first season coming back, the only way they would get a bye is if there was an international that overlapped with one of
I think
the
yeah, I'm pretty sure
regional
with the section,
qualifying
yeah.
competitions. And so I think that was it. And I haven't even seen the schedule for those competitions. So it could have been a case to where there was no overlap, there was no conflict, and they would have had to go then do those events in
I
addition
don't,
to their Grand Prix and any senior Bs. So I can
yeah.
easily see why this rule was implemented just for them.
Mm,
I doubt we'll see it next year or any year after this.
yeah. No, they'll probably leave it in place to be like, no, it wasn't just for them, but
Sure.
it's probably never going to be used ever again. I mean,
But we'll
I don't know.
always call it the Shibutani rule if it
Oh,
sticks
it's
around forever. It's
100%. Yeah.
definitely the Shibutani
Yeah.
rule. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. What else we have going on?
Oh, so I saw that Shidorov, he got like a grant from the Kazakh Olympic Committee, for training costs. So I like that he's getting attention from his own, federation, that they're now supporting him because he has a lot of potential. Like his
He's
skating
already
is
second
just
in the world.
I know he's already second, right? But even then, there's just so much more room to grow for him, and
Yeah.
that's what excites me so much about Shidorov, is that like, okay, amazing jumps, they feel confident. They're to me bigger than Ilya's, in my opinion. He has better runoff out of his judges out of his jumps than Ilya does. If anything, he's probably won like quad toe, quad sock out for quad sock out. He's better, right? So seeing him then develop too, his skating skills are good. So just all this. I'm glad he's getting that support. I'm really excited to see him. Hopefully he sticks around, but for the next 4 years, we'd be lucky if we get any more time after that. But yeah, it's good to see that he got the support.
Yeah, and he definitely is interested in developing all of his skating.
Yeah.
He works in ballet pretty heavily. I see
Mm.
his ballet instructor added me on Instagram during Skate
Oh,
America.
cool.
I was posting videos of not him, he wasn't there, but he followed me and then I followed back and I see all the time um Shidorov is working with him to develop his
Send me that
line
account so I can
yeah,
follow it.
yeah. Yeah. So I'm excited because I think, he's young and he's hungry to develop his skating into that top level
Yeah,
rather than just resting on this technical ability that's already gotten him to second in the world. It can only go up from the free skate that he had last year. It really can only go up. That
really,
was a
for
bunch of
real.
nothing, but I expect that he will be someone that will progress a lot because he wants to be a well-rounded skater. So good for him
Yeah,
for getting all that
mhm.
money.
And even if it
Uh,
was a bunch of nothing, still loved it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, it was cheesy. It was cheesy and fun. He's fresh and young, and that only lasts for so long though, because then you start to expect
it's true.
a little bit more, and I think we'll see it from him. Another story is the Tochlers changed coaches. They went from Zani in Young Goose, and now they're with Margalio in Finland, and my prayers are slightly being answered because they are a team that decided to go to Massimo Scali for choreography.
Yes.
I said during Worlds that everybody needs to think about going to him because he's really, in my opinion, he is the it choreographer, especially for
Yep.
dance right now. He's doing singles choreography as well, and I think he does pairs choreography sometimes. But for dance, really, I know he can't do every team choreography, but people should really be looking at him to develop really standout programs.
Yeah, I think it's a good change. You could tell that this is a change they had to make. They were losing that status as the number one team in their own camp. They did lose it actually, and
Twice.
they needed
Yep.
something fresh. They needed that fresh point of view, and I love that they're going to Scali because just what Scali was able to do for Tequila and Versailles, like it felt just like overnight growth and maturity. It felt like that perfect fit, like a, perfect glove fit like program. So I'd love to see what they can do with the Tashlers because to me the Tashlers have just been skating to a bunch of just like weird generic nonsense. Like I don't know how else to describe that.
It's
Like
like
I
vinyl.
don't
It's music you would put on a vinyl record and like lounge around. Like if at least they're free dances. It's kind of like really. It's just kind of chill. Like I know
yeah.
I know some of their programs in the last few years have meant a lot to them personally, and I get that. But I feel like it's kind of becoming. It was becoming one note, and I feel like
Yeah.
they have more to show otherwise. So I'm hoping that I have no doubt that he'll be able to show us something different with them. So I'm excited to see about their progress.
Right, and especially after like all that success he had last year, and then I still remember you hyping him up a lot and delivering. So I really hope he can deliver for everybody this season. And it's not one of those cases to where it's a lot of attention and success at once, and it's hard to,
No, he's
focus on each person.
I sat right next to him at Worlds, and I've talked to him extensively, and I know that he's somebody that just gets the sport, and he gets
Hmm.
ways to make things fresh. And I don't think he ever is one of those choreographers that's like, oh, here I found this piece of music. Like he really thinks things out, and he really thinks out the choreography, and you can tell that this is what he's meant to do. And I just hope that more
Oh,
skaters
good.
take advantage of going to him and really standing out because the programs that he had last year are so good, all of them.
Right. Mhm. Brilliant stuff. Speaking of choreography, a lot of the Chinese skaters are paying a lot of money this year. There a lot of big name choreographers, Benoit, Shevchenko, David Wilson, and I know we were hoping that the Chinese Fed was gonna shell out the cash to get Lori Nickel for Sway and Han, and that just seems more likely considering they're shelling out all this cash for like lower ranked skaters
Yeah.
and
I don't
not
see how they could
Olympic
not
medal
go back to
favorites or
Lori.
level. Right.
Yeah,
She's the perfect person for them. I don't see any other choreographer who could really choreograph for Sway and Han like she can.
right.
It's almost like it's a perfect fit. It's like, artist muse situation.
Yeah. We don't know anything yet. We haven't even seen, as far as I know, there's no even training
Yeah.
videos of them yet. But I would hope that they would go back to Lori. I know that she had a contract with the Chinese Federation that no longer exists, but I would assume for athlete specific, such as Swain Han, I would think that they would still have some kind of working relationship where she's like, yes, absolutely, come back to me. Or if they want to come back with maybe their best of programs, give me their 2016 short program. I would watch that again
Or
gladly.
just like a mishmash like Papadakis and Cicerone did for the
Yeah,
last Olympics, which just the best of.
yeah. I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind honestly, but I
Honestly, yeah.
again, they're coming back and they're obviously hungry to win, not just like go to the Olympics and have that experience. So I am sure that they will have something special. Again, they
Hmm.
they have the capability. I mean, they have the capability of greatness and all these unique different styles. So I'm not worried about them. Another
Yeah.
person that is, this is within the last day, the last 24 hours actually, but Alyssa Liu she put up a video on her Instagram. She's like, turn up the volume, and it's her skating a piece of choreography. I don't know to which program, but there's no music on it. So then the next story says like, haha, just joking, like there's no sound, whatever. So we have no idea what she's skating to yet.
But I love
Um,
that she's interacting in a way with fans. She has an awareness that we're all very eager to know what
yeah.
she's skating to, and then she still was just willing to outright troll us.
Yeah. Well, remember
So,
Elia did this. Elia did this. I don't know if it was last year or the year before, but no, it was definitely last year. He posted that he was skating to Bolero. He knew like he knew, and he was all like it was a serious story. Obviously like I don't think he can stand Bolero.
yeah.
Um, but that's not you know. So everybody knows that the fans are really into these program announcements. I remember when I was a punky kid in my teens still on the boards, I used to spoil Michelle Kwan's music every single year. I had sources that knew what her music was, and I would be the one to spoil it. And I remember one year I spoiled Sasha Cohen's music. I remember Brian Joubert in the 2006 Olympic season, I spoiled his music, and his camp was not happy with me. This is way before, this is the beginning of Facebook. No one was on Facebook at that point, no Instagram. I think MySpace was just starting to be like social media and these interactions directly with the skaters didn't happen. So
Yeah.
there's me, like little teenage me, like, oh, I'll be the one to announce it. I don't care. And I learned very quickly that the skaters would rather do it themselves and they're not going to be happy if you're the one who does it. So it is what
Yes.
it is.
I still
Yeah.
remember you spoiling Tosca for everybody, and no one
Yeah.
believed you.
Yeah. And remember that year, okay, so that's the fall of 2003. I was just turned 17 at that point. And it's crazy that, you know, I don't know. I did just I remember Scheherazade, it was me too. I remember that I was the one that was like,
Oh,
and
that was okay. I didn't remember that.
a lot of people were like, And then I want to interview Michelle and I might actually just DM her and be like, you don't know me, but whatever. I want to know because I was told by someone that was skating in her camp that she had this new short program in 2004 to Moulin Rouge to Roxanne.
Really?
That's what I was told. She was skating a program to this, and then she shows up with The Feeling Begins Again. Anyways, we're going way off topic, but I heard that she had this program, and then she shows up again with The Feeling Begins. So I don't know if this was just maybe a potential exhibition program that never came about, or if it actually was going to be a short program that they didn't like. It's never been addressed in the 22 years since then. No
This
one
is the first
has.
time hearing of it, and now
Yeah,
I'm like,
yeah,
oh, we need to get on this now.
yeah,
I'm just
yeah,
like, U.S. diplomat Kwan, were you willing to come?
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, but I remember in those days, yeah, it was much different. But I know that people are really into program announcements. This is like, again, this is part of the off season that people really look forward to, just as they look forward to the Grand Prix series. So, um, speaking of which, we're going to go
Right.
over later. We're going to go over all the program announcements that we found so
Yes.
far.
Yeah.
Um, but
Now there
anyways,
are
going
changes.
back on topic with this episode, what do we have next?
Yes. Okay, so the Japanese Federation had a training camp, but they split everybody into groups, and there was
Mhm.
a top group called the special group, and it's very curious who they
The
put in. It's
special
almost
group.
like these are the folks we know are going to the Olympics or have a chance. And so for the men and women, there were four skaters each group, and for pairs, it's, Miura and Kihara. That's
Yeah.
duh. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's interesting. So for the men, they had Yuma Kageyama, Ryo Nakata,
Who's
Tatsuya
not old enough.
Sugoi. Oh, interesting. That's so we know. Okay. And then Shun Sato, right? So it's almost like the Fed has their own favorites already. For the women, it's Kaori Sakamoto, Mao Shimada, Okaba Higuchi, and Monet Chiba,
Well, what I can
which
say to
makes
this,
sense.
yeah, I was going to say this makes sense because if you're going to structure it in such a way, you have the world teams plus the world junior champions. This is what your teams are so far. I would beg to differ about, the men. I would say, Kawamura, if he skates really well, he's going to be better than Tsuboi,
Yeah.
and probably better than Shun Sato as well. So I don't think it's necessarily
Right. It's like a favorites
indicative.
now, but the season still needs to play out.
Yeah, and
Exactly.
I don't
Yeah.
I don't think it's like indicative of like what the Olympic. I think it's just they had to structure it
Last
in a way
season.
that made sense for the results of last year, or.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, in poor Mao Shimada, this is 2006 all over again. She's potentially the Olympic champion, but can't go because of the rule change in the ages. So, I mean, and I don't disagree with the rule change. It's just
Yeah.
she's been in junior for 3 years as world junior champion, and now she's going back to junior for a fourth year, and it's like the motivation still seems to be there for her. I mean, she still skates amazing programs, but it has to be like, come on, like I want to
Yeah. And
play with
and the
that
way
big
it plays
kids.
out. yeah, I know there was like a big debate going from 15 to 17. To
Hmm.
me, I kind of wish they staggered it a little bit,
A little bit
hey,
more than
maybe
they
for the
did because,
next one, it
yeah.
should have been 16, and then maybe the next quad is 17,
Hmm.
just to like kind of make it more gradual. Because
Yeah.
now you have someone like Shimada who probably a few years ago dreamt of going to the Olympics a lot sooner than she's even able to,
Hmm.
right? And so just for that sake of like fairness and expectation on skaters, I kind of wish they did that, but too
Hmm.
late.
Too late, and I understand why it happened. So it's
Yeah, right. Yes.
we all
Yes, it
know
was.
why. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I still have residual trauma myself just from watching that competition.
No.
Um, and then okay, so this was really interesting to me is that the Italian Olympic Committee they released their selection criteria. It's very typical, but essentially for the next season, it's you take the total score from Italian nationals and then the two highest scores from next season. And there's the major competitions that are A, and then the like senior Bs, other
Challengers. Yeah.
competitions, challengers, whatever that are Bs, right?
Yeah.
But the only difference is that if it's a B competition, they factor it by a 0.95, so
Hmm.
you get 5% less
Yeah.
points on that total, right?
Hmm.
Um, but like, and then you're ranked. But
Hmm.
right after they say that, they have all these other rules and
Well,
subsections that.
just to be clear though, this is
Oh,
like
go
the
ahead.
same rules that they've had
Yeah.
for I think quite a few years. Up to this
Yes.
point, everything we've said so far, this is how they typically decide their world teams. So, but
Mhm.
then go on.
But then okay, so they establish a ranking just based on that. And if it's a strict reading, great, whatever, that'd be cool, right? But then they're like, hey, the technical committee has discretionary power to deviate from the rankings if
Hmm.
justified by additional considerations. And
Hmm.
there's just so many considerations
Yeah.
here. It's like being able consistency in two quads in the short program, which none of the Italian men have.
I mean,
Consistency in
Grassel
performing
was
two
trying.
trying, but no, never really could do that well. No, never,
Yeah.
right? He was always messing up one of them.
Yeah.
Consistency in performing two quads in the free, which a lot have
Yeah.
more or less shown in the past.
Yeah.
Um, Reliability, stuff like that, right? But then head-to-head competition matters. But then there's also this idea that if the men in this ranking are within 30 points of each other, the technical committee can do whatever they want,
Which is what
is
they did
basically
they
it.
did this with I think this is a rule that hasn't changed as well because I know that last year with the women, they were close enough. Larnaki Gutman and Anna Pizzeta, they were close enough in the rankings that they could have chosen either one to go to Worlds based on that criteria. I'm pretty sure it was 30 points last year as well.
Hmm.
But yeah, but what you're saying is all these discretion, it's like we're gonna send whoever we want anyways, and that's that.
Right.
So
So my guess based on just a reading of these rules, I'm like, oh, I think you're right. Like they're gonna send Grassel. I think
it's the
he's the
Grassel
favorite.
rule. It's really like
It's right.
it's kind of,
It's everything defending sending Grassel, even if he totally underperforms in the fall season
or it gets
because
under
he's
rotation calls.
right, or the actual legit London rotation calls,
Yeah.
right? And it's really gonna hurt somebody like Rizzo who's gonna come back
Yeah.
because even if he has doesn't have his quads back and he's only doing triples, he can still perform well because he gets PCS and GOE.
Mhm.
But this could totally just knock him out of the running if he can't get his of a consistent quad toe at least.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
the buzz in Italian skating is that Grossel is a favorite of the federation, so I don't have doubt. I mean, he's really, and we've talked about this. I think we've talked about this both at Worlds and World Team Trophy. He is really at the mercy of the technical panel,
the
and that's all
talent.
there is to it.
Mhm.
If one wants to go crazy on his rotations, and they sometimes do, then he's going to sink down the standings. If they want to look the other way, like they have done a lot in the last year, then he's going to be right up there.
Like World Team
So
Trophy.
yeah, exactly, exactly. So
Right.
he's one of those skaters that it's really we've seen him in the past. Mirai Nagasu was like that for a long time. Lindsey Thorngren more recently in the women. The men not so much though. I mean, Vincent Zhou, I would say was in that boat for quite some time too. If they really wanted to hit him hard, they would. And then the next competition, there's no call. But
I
for
mean,
Grassel,
yeah,
it seems like as long as he is in some kind of shape, he'll be on the Olympic team. And then I would say
yeah,
Mimola is just, he is the future. He's even the now.
I agree.
So it's him. Yeah, Rizzo, I don't know. I don't think he's, from what I've heard, I don't think he's in 100% shape. I might be
I mean, he
wrong, but
just recovered from, he just had a major surgeries, right?
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. It's not looking great. Yeah, I agree. It's
Yeah,
probably Grosso and Amola at this point. Just again, considering the criteria and how they're almost like built to send
yeah,
Daniel for
yeah,
sure. And then Amola's just had a lot of success this last season.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually like though that even though they have all these discretion, whatever criteria, I like that the procedure is so transparent. Um, Canada, for example, goes, they kind of flip-flop throughout the years in what system they want to use as far as how they decide their team. And even the US, I mean, the US does have a kind of point system now as well, but it's up to their discretion within these tiers
Hmm.
of skaters that they have. Um, but yeah, I like that we actually know what they're looking for, and Italy has always been very transparent about what their system is, whether it's, open to interpretation or not. At least they publish it rather than surprise, surprise, this is what we're doing.
Hmm. And like honestly, like most of the Olympic selections aren't, in my opinion, aren't that controversial, even if I've disagreed with them. Like not sending Ross Minor. I know that was like a big deal to a lot of people, but to me, I'm like, I don't see the
Yeah,
issue. You
yeah.
perform once a year isn't to me someone you should
The
send the
one the one thing I
Olympics.
have to say, the one thing that bothered me about that, and I'm the one who broke that news, by the way, not Christine Brennan. I'm the one who broke that news that he was not on the Olympic team. Let's be clear
Yeah.
about that. The one thing that bothered me about that was that Sam Auxier, who was the USFS president at the time, did this press conference the next day. And he said the reason why they chose Adam was because they somewhere in their criteria it says like if you're a metal threat, then you would be considered in a situation like this. Back then they didn't have this
Didn't have
full
body of work, right? They
documentation.
didn't
Yeah,
do,
exactly.
yeah.
They didn't do this. So this what he tried to push was that Adam was a metal threat, which let's be real, Adam even knew himself, and he has his own podcast, and they're doing great stuff right now with like the history
So we'll
of
talk
they
about.
did men's skating. Yeah, so they're doing a lot of good stuff right now. But he even said at some point during the men's lore, this video that they put out, that he knew he was realistically fighting for a top 10 position. He knew he was not a medal threat. So I like now that there's more of a procedure in place than saying, "Huh, we put him on the team because he could win a medal." No, everybody knew he was not a medal threat. And you can say he was needed in the team event, whatever, but like realistically, I think he got fourth out of five in the free skate in the team event. So it wasn't like he
Yeah.
was a massive, you know. Anyways, I'm not saying Minor should have been on the team. I think he would have fought to even get into the free skate. Obviously, we sent three good men, and they had a good result in this event. Um, but yeah, I like now that it's more structured and it's following Italy in the sense that we know what the tier
Hmm.
is, and we know there aren't going to be any major surprises.
Right.
Um,
And they're very clear. It's about consistency. You
right.
cannot just show up, skate really well in one competition and
Mhm.
expect anything. You need to
Yeah.
perform at all your competitions. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Next, what do we have next?
Oh, the technical minimums, the new ones, because it's now a combined minimum for, the short and the long. Um, and so they increased for every discipline except women, which was interesting to me. That for women they actually reduced the minimum from 90 to 88,
Right.
which I don't really understand
Well, I do.
exactly.
I do
Okay,
because
so
they want.
what is it?
Yeah. So, well, this is what I think, and this is my own theory. This has never been published by the ISU. This has never been discussed. I think around 2018, 2019, I thought they're adjusting these. Well, whatever year it was that Dasa Grim, she had the minimums, and the last minute
Oh, and
they
they
took it
mid-year changed
away.
it.
No, they
Yeah,
changed it like two
mid-year.
weeks before. Like it was very
Yeah.
shortly before I think
And
Worlds.
there was one competition where you could enter to then get that new minimum,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't 2 weeks, but it was late into the season that they put out this press communication that was like, we're changing them. So my theory is that they want no more than six warm-up groups in each discipline. Like this is what
For the
their
short.
goal is for the short program or the rhythm dance. Because just looking at what they've done with these minimums, men at Worlds, there were 39 men. They're increasing 5 points in these minimums, so hopefully they can drop a few men off so that they only have to worry about six groups. Women, there were only 33 women. So okay, reduce it, a few points, and then maybe you'll get a few more. I'm sure they've done the math to see that a few more women would have gotten in just based on those few
Yeah.
points. Pairs is interesting.
They increased from 88
Maybe
to
be,
91.
but they're also probably thinking, okay, we have a strong Chinese team coming back. We have potentially a North Korean team coming. So they're probably trying to limit that to the 24 as well. And then for ice
Yeah.
dance, it's no surprise that they increased it because I love ice dancing, but that was a very long rhythm dance at Worlds. That was
And they
what?
increased it 4 points, which is a lot in ice
Yeah.
dance.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, for some teams, it's a lot.
Yeah.
And what were there, 36 teams you said before?
37, 36. Yeah, 36
I think
probably because there
36.
was, yeah.
And they want to get to 30. So that makes
Yeah.
sense if they're
I mean, I
doing
don't
that.
know if they want to
And
get this is again, this has never been said, but this is just based on what they
I
do
mean
every
it
year. It's what it's because and again, we didn't really say, but I keep cutting you off. I'm so sorry. But
no, you're good, you're good.
the reason why we didn't explain why six warm-up groups is important is if you have a seventh group, then you have to do an extra ice resurfacing, and that adds another hour to the competition. And time is limited during these world championships that go on,
Yeah.
4 days. It's a long day.
And there are, just in my own experience, not that I've ever had to rent out a whole arena, but these venues, if you stay past a certain time, charge you money. You get
Hmm.
like, whatever, you incurred
Hmm.
more fees and everything. And a
Hmm.
lot of these are arena staff too. I imagine they're forcing you then to pay all those wages and additional penalties and everything. So there's a lot of incentive for these local organizing committees to have these competitions run well and end on time.
Yeah.
So I can totally see that too, to where they're trying to reduce the number of skaters that qualify for the short programs and the rhythm dance, just again to save these local organizing committees money. Because I imagine they're seeing that there's less and less bids for these major competitions, right?
Right.
Sometimes there's just one bid, or they're
Right.
begging a federation to take it.
Right.
So this will help ease all that and make these events more profitable instead of the money losers they can be.
They published the Europeans and four continents changes, and I mean actually there are no changes from last year.
Changes,
But
yeah.
the interesting thing that I noticed is historically the minimum for the Olympics goes by this tier, the Europeans
Mhm.
and four continents. The document that they published today has no mention of the Olympics from what I saw. Maybe I did not read it fully, but I didn't see any mention of the Olympics. So I don't know I don't know. Maybe there's a separate document coming for the Olympics. I think
Yeah.
typically it would come with maybe the qualifying competition communication or something, but it should be that you need to just achieve these minimums in this tier to be eligible for the Olympics.
Yeah, if it's a consistent like it's been the past few cycles, then yeah,
Mhm.
we shouldn't expect any changes. Exactly what it is for Euros and for continents.
And one thing I meant to research before this video is I'm getting older. Maybe I misread or I thought they were changing this to be a combined score that includes the PCS now instead of just factoring in the
Right.
TES. I thought
I thought that was
maybe
for
this
next
is
cycle.
okay, so then it's after 2026. Okay, I know I saw
Well,
it somewhere, but
we'll
it's
make a
not
note
yet.
and come back to that
Yeah.
and report an
Yeah.
update on that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was what they wanted to do at some point. Just not yet. And that leads itself to a whole bunch of extra stuff too, because all it takes is a few judges to just throw away high PCS, and then you have many more points than you should. So
It's gonna help some
it's
ice dance
able to
teams when
be
they go to certain
manipulated.
senior
Yeah.
Bs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. They're already
Yep.
getting out. Judges have already been suspended from these senior Bs for talking to other judges on the panel and saying, "Oh, my team really needs a +2 instead of a +1 so they can hit these." Like this is documented that judges have been suspended for this behavior. So now it's like with the PCS, which is so subjective anyways. I mean, who's to tell? I have my opinions because I've seen a lot of skating and I know in my opinion, what a 10.0 should be, what a 9.0 should be. To the next person, though, that maybe hasn't seen as much, maybe hasn't been on the ice ever skated, their definition of very good could be completely different than mine. So it's like you can argue what your way out of anything with the PCS and really you get away with it. If a
Yeah.
skater, that has not 1 ounce of choreography in their program makes you cry because you felt it, I cannot tell you that you're wrong. I that's your emotions, that's your bizarre world that you live in,
Those
but that's
airplane arms were choreographically important, Tony.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They
Or
added to the mood.
the Tanya Harding move, which is like these palms out. She always did like these very stiff palms in all her. I think about that all the time. And I mean Tanya's skating was great. I have nothing, but one of those trademarks was that those palms just like that.
Yes, those, yes, yes,
But yeah,
yes, yes.
if that makes you cry or feel some kind of way, then good for you. you give that 8 or that 9 and that's it, And I can't argue with you about it because really the rules are very there is a rubric, but it's however you feel and that's it. So
right?
that
And you just have to justify it really if you're brought up for like discipline. You don't have to justify it other than like the round table where you're just arguing with the
right.
other judges. Like at
Right.
that
And then,
point, like yeah.
if I was a judge, I would argue, I would be so out of line. I already know I would be out of line. And I would sit there
I
and say,
know.
I don't know what you're like. I can just imagine, I know how I am as a person and I would sit in these
No,
round
yeah.
tables and
You
I would
you'd,
get
you'd be
fired
Joe
up.
Inman. You'd be Joe Inman.
I
You're
would
writing
be,
essays for every single one of these
yeah,
scores that you
yeah,
gave. You can say
yeah.
exactly why you did it and why it was justified, and it's going to be so documented that no one's really going to argue
I
against
mean, I
you.
hope. I would
Because he
hope,
never got suspended for his out of
Well,
line
the
scoring. That was
email, remember
accurate.
the email too.
Oh,
So,
that yeah.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not really a big fan of that, but
yeah. But he
I'm
did have a point. I mean, he did have a
he
point.
did, he did, and you
For
saw that it
those,
worked because a lot of judges followed suit at the
yeah, yeah,
Olympics.
yeah. Yeah, and that
And
didn't
then
make
then,
many
then
people
he
happy.
lost the Olympics.
Yeah. So
So,
for those that don't know, let's just go over this really quick. Joe Inman
oh
was
yeah,
a judge for the United States for a long time, and in it was either the fall of 2009 or maybe actually I think it was after Europeans in 2010. Plushenko at some point did an interview where he not only threw himself under the bus, but I think he dragged Brian Joubert down with him as well. And he basically said, "I don't have transitions. We don't have any transitions." That's what he said. So then Inman wrote this email. I don't know if it was like to his own like what we would call chat group today, but it was like his emails group. I don't know if it was to every judge, to like an ISU mailing list or whatever, but he said, "How are we supposed to judge this if the skater themselves is saying there are no transitions?" That was the extent of it. There was no more like
yeah,
this is what you must do. But people really did not like that he questioned that. And let's be real. I
he
mean,
was right.
yeah, that's the thing. Like, uh, you know,
And then you
it's
saw a bunch of judges that Olympics giving
yeah.
Plushenko even one in the
Fours,
fives,
fives, yeah.
fours,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't
like
know if the fours, but it was low.
justified,
Yeah, yeah.
justified, right? But what did he lose the Olympics by? Like I think it was
Not
something like
much.
by less than a double loop.
Yeah,
So yeah, mhm,
yeah,
that would have
yeah.
been it.
So, but that would have been me. This would be me if I was a judge. I would be explain yourself. Like, how do you get this score? How do you get a
Right,
9.0
right. You're like,
for
why is the
skating
attention on
skills?
me? The attention should be on
Yeah.
all of you
Yeah, exactly.
and
Yeah,
your
yeah. But I would
failures.
be the one
Yeah,
out of the corridor, and I would be the one having to worry
exactly.
about ever getting an assignment again. As I was told at Worlds, if you want to judge like that, you will probably never get an assignment again. So this is the game that you
Yep.
have to play, and that's the sport that we love, and we know it, and it's been, told to us by basically strangers. So the inner workings of skating, I'm sure there are many more conversations about this and how you have to stay in line, or you're going to get punished. So again, that's our sport.
Right, right.
What else we have?
Oh, okay. So from social media, from reports, skaters are just still training jumps, the in terms of like trying to get that leg up for the next Olympics. So, I mean, Young Yu's apparently been improving and has regained her triple axel, so we'll see what that looks like. But to me, I'm like, so if you regain your triple axel, but you're still under rotating all your other jumps, does it
Yeah.
matter?
Yeah. I mean,
Right? I
again,
don't think
well,
so.
actually, a lot of the Korean women could be thrown into this discussion with Grossel, where it really
That's true.
it depends. I've noticed that the Korean women tend to get the edge call on the flip a lot more than most other
Right.
skaters, even though many other skaters are, guilty of this as well. But they seem to
Right.
get hit with a full E many, many times. So yes, if they're under
Whereas Kaori
rotating,
won't even get an exclamation a lot of the times for her
yeah,
lets, which is,
yeah,
I guess, when
yeah.
you're a multi-time world champion, that happens.
Yeah. But yeah, yeah. But I did notice the Korean skaters seem to get hit a lot. So yes, if she gets her triple axel back, that's one thing, but how
And
are all the other jumps?
right. And then on triple axels, apparently Alyssa Liu is training her triple axel. Um and from her team, basically they've said we practice these at every event, typically on the first day of practice. I haven't heard any reports of that
Well,
at competition.
so I was,
So
again, as I said, I was at Worlds on that first day of practices in the main rink. I was there all day long. I don't, I was focused on the skater whose music was playing. So what was going on around them,
okay.
I didn't really, but I would have known from the cheering, I think that she was trying triple axel. As far as I know in that main rink, she did not try one that day.
Okay,
However, remember they had that practice rink where
you're right.
there was a camera in there. I don't remember a discussion about her
Yeah,
attempting one then either. Maybe the camera wasn't on her. I don't know. But this is surprising to me saying that they were already going
right.
for it
Been
on the first
practicing
day.
it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't know that. I mean, I didn't know that. So,
but apparently the goal is one in the short, two in the long. So that's to me going from none to that is a big like
yeah.
jump. So
Yeah.
I'm very hesitant because her axle technique is brand new from when she was doing triple axles
Yeah.
before. So we'll see. Because
Yeah.
I don't see it in the double, the ability to do a triple.
You never know. I mean, you never know,
Unless it's
but yeah,
rotation speed just
it's
out the wazoo. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would be surprised, and there's nothing against her. I don't doubt if anybody is going to be able to do like suddenly miraculously have it. I don't doubt that it will be her. Just I would be hesitant right now to say yes, she's going to have three triple axles and that's it.
Right.
And I quite in the short program we see like Amber Glenn has shown that you land the triple axel in the short, you can distance yourself from the rest of the field.
Yeah.
You can cushion, if you do have some mistakes in the free skate, you can still end up winning. I don't know if this is Amber's, or I'm sorry, I don't know if this is Alyssa's mentality as well, but it also comes as a huge risk, a huge, huge risk if you were to under rotate or downgrade or whatever. And we saw that with Amber at Worlds. So I don't know. As a world champion, I know she wants to push herself, and I know she will not settle for coasting, which I love about her, but I just
Right.
don't know that. Yeah, actually, you know what? I'm not going to say anything because until I see where she's at with the triple XL, I can't say like it's a bad decision, you know?
Right, right. I agree. But so speaking of two skaters who's had a triple axel in the past and working on more, Rinko Watanabe, she's working on a quad sock cow. I could see that with rotation speed because her triple axel was pretty much all rotation speed.
Yeah,
So maybe, but she's been having a lot of rotation issues
yeah,
recently, so
yeah.
I don't know about that one. But I
There's
guess if you're
something
gonna try
missing
to
in
make
her
the
skating for
Olympics,
me. I don't know. Like out of all the Japanese skaters, she's I think she's a pleasant skater, but there's just something missing for me
it
with her.
is. It is just
So,
pleasant. It's not, there isn't that emotion in her skating all the time, I think. It's
mm,
almost like sometimes she skates like she doesn't necessarily want to be skating that day.
yeah.
And
Which
that's
is
the
weird for
sense
the
I get.
Japanese skaters, because you have all these really artistic, really
Mhm.
feeling the music held lines, and she's not one of them. So good for her for working on quad. We'll see. Uh,
And I put this on here just because like, hey, this is interesting. But Gabby Daleman had a triple toe on Instagram. It didn't look bad. It wasn't the best, but I'm like, oh, that's great. That like, okay, maybe Skizis might have some competition. But you pointed this out. It's been next season will have been 9 years since she won her world medal. So
mhm.
I didn't realize it had been that long. So again, temper expectations to even have competition for that Canadian women's spot. It's most likely Skizas, but it adds
Well,
some little bit drama maybe.
I don't think so. I'm not
You don't think
being
so?
hard. Well, I've just seen with her basically since I think 2018 Olympics, the individual free skate when she fell apart. I think that was the beginning of the end for her. Just
Yeah.
mentally, I don't think she's been able to get past that. Remember, she's world uh, bronze medalist in 2017, and then she's an Olympic gold medalist in 2018 with Canada for the team event because she skated and she actually skated a really good free skate in that team event. So she has
Okay.
these high expectations, and she falls apart in the individual. Ever since then, she really doesn't have anything to show. She keeps trying to make these comebacks. She has injuries. She went the pageant route, and she got all the way to winning pageants, and then all of a sudden she withdraws from the pageants to focus on skating, and then the skating really goes nowhere. What I will say is she looked good in those practice clips, but I've seen years and years and years and years and years of these triples in practice. And then, if anything, she shows up to the competitions, she'll have a decent short program, and then her free skates kind of just go by the wayside. And then she always seems like she's deflated and shocked by these skates. So I wish the best for her to come back, but for me, I don't really. And she has a change in training environment. She's training alongside Amber now, so maybe that will give her a push. I don't know if
Oh,
this is just for the summer or if it's for like a permanent move for the season. I don't know if that will help encourage her, but I would say right now, I think Madeline has Sarah Maud in Canada, who's nipping at her heels basically. I mean, she's beaten her twice at four continents. So, depending on what Madeline does, I think there's already competition right there. I don't think Gabby's going to be the one to come in and upset everything. She would have to have a really good season from the start, I think.
Yeah,
She's another one. She can't just show up to nationals and have a good skate based on her
exactly.
history. So I would say we'll see where she's at. She doesn't have Grand Prix assignments, so it would be like a challenger for her, if anything. And then we'll see where she's at.
Yeah, and then next thing in here was like I only saw one. Is anyone else like freshly injured? Saw like Wesley Chu just had ankle surgery in June. He's reporting it went well, so hopefully he'll be in some type of good
Well, no
condition.
Grand Prix
No?
assignment, so that tells me they
Yeah.
already knew like this was
Hmm.
happening and he's not going to be in shape for the fall. Which is unfortunate for him because he was not consistent, but he was looking like he was going to lead the way for Canadian men's skating. And now he's most likely, I mean, again, I don't have any insider information, but I don't think it sounds like he might not even be ready for nationals. So,
Yeah. Okay. So it's probably a Sadovsky again
yeah,
without really any type of competition. Just again seeing where the Canadian men are.
yeah,
And he seems to be on an upward track, Sadovsky. Like he's skating better and better and seemingly more consistent,
yeah.
for him. He's not having these like super hot and cold. Maybe it's just some lukewarm right now. So maybe
Yeah.
that does develop more. And maybe he'll start getting the PCS he's supposed to be getting.
Yeah.
We'll see. What's the next thing in here? Oh, okay. So I put this on here because I thought it was actually really great that she was doing that. And I just think to myself, 10 years ago, this never would have happened, right? But Amber Lynn was on Today's Show, interviewed about mental health and in sport and her own difficulties and what she's been through and how she has handled it for herself. And that's just to me like I really love that. I love that she was showing vulnerability, that she was going out there and being you can speak well and be real. You don't have to be that cookie cutter mold that used to expect everyone to be just 10 years ago. And I think that's a great direction in terms of like where the sport is going, having more open and honest just discussion about things like this because it does affect people like all the
Yeah.
time. Because when I read Gracie's book, you could see that all throughout to where she had this expectation to be this person that she inside was not, and she
Mhm.
had to suppress and mask so much. And so I encourage everyone to go. It's on YouTube. I think we'll put a link in just for that. But I thought it was really cool that she was willing to go do that.
Yeah, you can tell she's not rehearsed with
Yeah.
her answers. And it's not a Nancy Kerrigan situation where she's just running her mouth about nonsense. Like she's
No, it's
actually,
insightful.
yeah, exactly. She's just it's real. It's not rehearsed.
Hmm.
It's not I'm an ice princess. It's not any of that. And that is refreshing. And I think that's why she has such a good serious following because she is so relatable and she goes through a lot of stuff that a lot of people can relate to. So good
Right.
for
And
her.
it even just other sports thinking about that, like even like tennis, it's like you don't necessarily know those day-to-day struggles athletes go through. And so I just love that she's willing to be upfront about them. And so again, more power to her. And I hope more people do this. And I hope it just becomes more of a trend in sport in general, but especially figure skating to where, again, fitting the mold used to be such an important thing. And it, to me, no longer is. That whole idea is falling away. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, with the new logo comes new attitudes, and with the new LED boards comes, you don't have to be prim and proper. This is not the opera. I'm going to repeat it again for those that, this
yeah.
sport is now out of the 70s and it's more
I
modern
mean,
day.
what did Slyskaya say, back about American audiences at figure skating shows, how they're eating like hamburgers and hot
Cheeseburgers
dogs
or
and they
yeah,
don't
yeah.
and cheeseburgers,
Yeah.
right? And they
Or
don't
I don't
really
know, something. Yeah.
appreciate it. And I'm just like, whatever. I'm eating a basket of fried food at these
Yeah.
competitions.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care. Yeah.
Yeah.
But speaking of other things to go listen to, if y'all don't know, Ashley Wagner, Adam Rippon, and then
Sarah Hughes,
Sarah Hughes, but not the Olympic skater Sarah
not
Hughes, but
Olympic.
like
Yeah.
a producer with NBC Sports, Sarah Hughes. They have a
Yeah.
podcast called The Run Through, and they're going through skating lore. You should definitely go listen to all of them, especially the ice dance. I have not really got a chance to listen, but if you are somebody who watched skating in the 90s, it's almost like reliving all of that soap opera drama. It's insane that it even happened and that these stories are real. If you are newer to skating and you've never heard of this, also give it a
Hmm.
listen to see how insane the sport used to be. Like in
Hmm.
terms of just the drama between athletes,
Yeah.
especially in the Russian ice dance.
Oh my God. It's one thing
See?
I don't know if I don't know when it was a few years ago, but I was doing some research and I never like this is I don't even know what I have not watched it yet. I've only watched the men's one and we'll get into some of the stuff they say in the men's one. But in Grishuk and Platov hated each other so much that actually after the 92 Worlds, they split up.
Yeah.
Like they
Mhm.
were not together anymore for a little while. Then they decided to get back together right away and then, the rest is history. They're two-time Olympic champions. I don't know if I forgot that
Oh,
or just
really?
never knew.
Okay.
Yeah, a few years ago I came across that. I'm like, what? And then sure enough, this is what happened. But yeah, there was
And
so much drama going on behind it, especially with the Russians. The Canadians every 2 seconds were saying that they were being judged unfairly for programs that had nothing in. There was so much tension between all the teams. It was
roll
it was
eyes.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Of all the drama, the only manufactured drama was, Born and Kratz complaining about their results. Because I'm sorry, if anything, they got generous marks.
Yeah.
You can't do
Yeah.
one difficult step turn in a free dance and
Yeah.
complain about not medaling. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
When the gold medalists were doing like 30 twizzles on the ice,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Well, actually, so I think
Um,
this is our homework to watch that one. I don't know. Did you watch
yeah.
the men's one?
No, 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 no.
No.
I read about it. I listened to snippets, but I wanted to like listen, like,
Oh yeah, the
like
men's one is very good too. I mean, they go over some of the highlight moments of some of the biggest skaters, and I think they did a pretty good job of picking out those moments. There's a little, there's a little just funny tidbits in there, that Ashley and Adam know from having skated alongside some of
Mhm.
these skaters, or they skated with Nathan Chen in his peak years. So they have a lot of insight, and Adam was competing throughout this whole time. But the one thing I found really interesting is Adam deferred to Ashley quite a few times in the men's video to straight up say, basically, I knew at a certain point that I was not a medal contender. I was just trying my best to get my best results. But, there was one point where he says, Ashley, you can speak to this more because you actually were up there at the top level. So I think Adam, looking back at his skating, he's very realistic about where his level was
Yeah.
at. And he knew he was in it, he was hoping to go to the Olympics, not for a medal. He just, top 10 or whatever he said. And he comes across in a very, you can tell he really, really not only enjoys the sport still, but he knows the history and he followed everybody else's tracks throughout his own career.
Oh, yeah. So he's like a nerd too. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
heard, realistic and reflective. Yeah. And
yeah,
that
yeah,
it's good. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I
It,
remember at one point one of the things that I really liked that Adam was doing, he was back on the ice and he was like recreating some of the choreography or the stuff from programs that he loved. And one of the bits of choreography he did Angela Nikodinov's short program step sequence from 2001. And this is like, this was a few years ago, and I asked him like, wow, this is one of my favorite programs. Like I loved it. And he told me, no, I actually skated to this program. Like I had this music at one point and I like did a tribute basically to Angela with the arms throughout the choreo. The step sequence was just very memorable in that program. But anyways, I
yeah.
remember he did that and I was like, he's recreating these programs and that's really cool. I like what he's doing. I like I really want to listen to their podcast for this stuff that they've done recently because I think they put the research in and it's like we did with the returns and ice dance. I think that it's
Mhm.
um, a new angle that seems to get people pretty excited by what they're doing.
And then next thing I just forgot to mention in terms of like coach switching, but the Kovalevs, not that
Hmm.
like I don't think it's gonna make a difference really, but they changed to Meso, which feels a bit of like marketing. I don't know. It's almost like we've
No,
changed
I
coaches,
don't.
so give us a fresh look, or do you think it's
No.
actually them trying to yeah,
Well,
qualify that spot?
okay, so my thing is they've regressed. I mean,
Yeah,
they were winning Grand Prix medals with less than stellar skates. It's not that they've
yeah.
regressed
They locked down.
tremendously. It's just that they kind of have stayed at the same level, maybe slightly worse, and a lot of other teams all of a sudden are shooting past them to the point that now they have to go try to qualify a spot to the Olympics for the individual event in Beijing, which they most likely will not get. Um, but I think they needed to make a change basically, and
Yeah.
um, I'm always for skaters that make the change because I feel like a lot of skaters, like the Canadian men, st seem to stick with the same
Yeah.
coach throughout their career, regardless of, they go competition to competition and they have these meltdowns or these
Hmm.
inconsistent results and they're expecting something to happen. So I'm all for skaters that make that change and want to step up in their own skating. So we'll see with them. Again, I think it's a big ask to get that qualifying spot with pairs having so few spots available to qualify in Beijing.
Well, it's
But
just
good
three,
for them.
right?
Three. Yeah, but good for them
And
for at
then
least
Sway and
trying.
Han take one. So
Yep.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So outside shot. But yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then we have a bunch of retirement announcements like that this season is gonna be the last for a lot. And then some are just,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm just gonna announce now I'm not coming back.
Mm-hmm.
I think let's start with the biggest one. So Kaori Sakamoto has announced this is her last season, which isn't surprising, I think, to
No.
anybody. If
No.
anything, this last 4 years almost feels like a bonus,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah. But she said her goal is to earn or help Team Japan earn a silver medal at the Olympics. So immediately being like, hey, we're not in the running for gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. I'm like, okay, I get it with the lack of like a competitive ice dance team, but okay.
Yeah, but I mean, even, and that speaks to the predictability of the team event.
Yeah.
It's we've talked about the needing the points to be changed. We've talked about, yeah,
Yeah.
but it is
Or
it
letting
is
everyone compete in all phases. Yeah.
that's what I think. That's what needs to
Mhm.
happen. But it's more ice time that we talked about and it's
Yeah.
money. So I don't know.
And then she's
Who
going to
else?
transition to coaching after.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
good. That makes sense. Good.
Yeah.
Please teach your skating skills to
Yeah.
everybody, please, if you
Yeah.
can. Unless you're like Patrick Chain, who can't explain why he does it or how he
Yeah.
does it, because
Yeah.
he's just so naturally talented.
Hmm.
Wakaba announces her last season as well, which
Not
again,
surprising.
this not surprising. The last 4 years for her also feels like a big bonus, and
Hmm.
she's had a lot of struggles with
With
injuries.
her
So
injury, yeah.
hopefully she stays injury free and is able to compete this whole next season. And I would love to see her return that triple axel. I know she's been working on it too.
Yeah.
And I felt the last Olympics she got really shafted um, with her triple axel call. Like I don't know, I disagreed with it just considering some of the other calls in the same
Hmm.
competition.
Hmm.
But I would love to just see her perform really well, get back to that like to where she's in contention for like championship medals all the time. And I
Hmm.
know she hasn't been a favorite of her own federation, but she's always been a fan favorite. She's always been one of my favorites,
Me
and I'm
too.
always really excited to watch her. So I'll be sad to see her go.
Me
Just
too.
atypical for a Japanese skater in terms of that athleticism and that power and that raw emotion ability that she
Hmm.
has that so other few Japanese women have.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Yeah. Oh, and then Benoit let it leak to an outlet. I don't think Brady announced it. I didn't see that she did. That this is Brady Tennell's last season. I think also not surprising to anybody, right? Like, no,
I don't know. I
unless it
mean,
is
I
surprising
don't.
to you too. But
No, no, it's not surprising. I mean, Brady also has been around. Her first big season was 8 years ago, 9 years ago already. So to me, it's not all three of these skaters not surprising at all. Um, I don't know. I wish the best for Brady. I don't know that she's in the top tier of
yeah,
US
she's not
women, but she
anymore.
she had a good season last year. I mean, she really kind of put it back together after, 2020 was looking like it was going to be her breakthrough into that top group. And then, there was no worlds, and then she had a long way to come back since then. So I wish the best for her. I don't know if she has
That
any plans.
cancellation of that Worlds really kind of.
Kosternaya, she come on, like
Kosternaya would have been world champion. Boykova,
almost.
Kozlowski would have been world champions. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh God, but I think we were saved though from watching um Sinitsina and
Sinitsina,
Katsalapov beat
yeah.
Papadakis and Cicerone at Worlds
Yeah.
because that was probably about to happen considering
Yeah.
they had that weird free dance.
Europeans, yeah.
Um, yeah, and what happened at Europeans? I still, oh, we should. I wish we asked her. What was with the 10-minute delay in Papadakis' own scores
Oh
that
yeah.
that year?
Yeah.
We should have asked next
Yeah.
time. Okay.
Yeah.
And then just two other ones I saw. I'm not sure if you saw any, but just
Hmm.
some other U.S. skaters. So if you're international, you probably aren't really aware of them. But Mia Kalin is stepping away from the sport, and she's again was I saw the post and it was very much talking about how like this sport has a lot of pressure and the mental, emotional,
Yeah.
physical struggles that she was dealing with, and I
She
could
said like the last
totally
4 years felt like she wasn't in herself. Like,
yeah.
she was doing what she was told basically. I don't know. We don't know. She hasn't elaborated on that. We don't know if that's a family or coaching thing. She did say though that again, we're going to go to back to Massimo Scali. He was her most part of her most recent coaching team with Philip, same coaches as Alyssa has, and she said that they are very supportive of her and helped her through this decision. So that's another check mark in their
Good.
camp to be like, these are good
and
people.
and I love that because they literally were saying, you know, because let's be real, they get paid to do this job. And
Mhm.
there's that perverse incentive to keep someone in the sport, so they keep paying you. And they gave that up to do what's best for
Mhm.
her, which I love. I love that. They looked at her as a human and were like, do you? And so that's good. And I really
Yeah,
again hope more people go to them. And
yeah.
then Panio from the men's side, that's officially announced retirement, and he's been dealing with a lot of injuries. I know for a while, like we were just like, oh no, what if he starts just doing four quads in a long and two in a short consistently all the time? Will USFS have no choice but to start sending him to major championships all the
Yeah.
time? And but that never materialized.
Best of luck to him. I know
Yeah.
he was skating with at first he was skating with Vyacheslav Zagorodniuk, who was previous European champion, world medalist. I really liked Vyacheslav's skating. Didn't really go anywhere with him. He stopped representing Ukraine and then he started representing the United States. He was skating with Todd Eldridge for a while. That's, as far as I know, that's Todd's first skater that's really national level that I knew of.
Yeah.
But didn't really go anywhere with him either. I mean, he had big quad jumps for a while. I remember at nationals one year he was fifth, maybe even fourth place. Was he on the podium as pewter medalist? Maybe. I don't
I would
remember.
have
He
to
was
double
he
check
was
that.
really high up
Yeah.
there. I mean, it was close to him really upsetting the top scores. But again, the U.S. national scoring was out of control, and the PCS really just there was nothing there. There was nothing there, and I'll attribute that to injury problems. It's just unfortunate that he probably does have a really big personality, and it just didn't really show in the skating.
Yeah. I think that's just an issue a lot of skaters end up having, and we've talked about that too, to where you see them in the kiss and cry, and they just have these like bubbly, effervescent, or just kind of just really charismatic, personalities. But then the ice, you don't see any of that.
Yeah.
And again, I always wonder what that disconnect is between being that
Shy.
in
They
real
could be
life.
shy.
Yeah, it could be.
I
Yeah.
think I think people assume they're going to be one way, and then the music starts and the audience is there, and everything just drops immediately because there's pressure, there's nerves, there's whatever.
Hmm.
And I'm sure there's skaters that are really funny off the ice that give nothing on the ice, and I think the reverse. I'm sure there are skaters that are tremendously uninteresting, if you want to say, and on the ice though they can really sell a story. So I don't think there's any rhyme or reason to
And we
how
we
it
definitely
works.
saw that a lot in the 90s, to where, you would see these really emotional performances from skaters, but then when they're in the kiss and cry or they're talking to the press, then they're actually performing and being
Yeah,
performative
yeah,
in a really cold way. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, but that was all of our skating news updates for July. We're gonna end this episode here, and then for the next one, though, is our own reactions to all the program announcements we've seen so far. And for some of these, we've had really opposite reactions. So I'm excited to see where our discussion goes on
Can't
that,
wait,
because
can't
I
wait.
remember one I was just like, "Oh, this is terrible," and you're just like, "Shut up, this is great."
Yep,
So,
can't wait. All right, so stay
okay.
tuned for our next episode. This will be episode 2 of the new season. We are going over every announcement that we've seen so far as of, this week. And yes, we have some feisty differing opinions, which I think will be exciting to get into. Anyways, for now, this is the skating session. My name is Tony Wheeler.
And I'm Thomas Vu.
Thanks for watching.
All right, bye everyone.